Hi there, it's been a minute but it's good to be back now with the sequel breaking all box office records as we speak. I thought it was awesome time to pop back and talk about the original that was such a favourite of mine. It's certainly from my youth. Let's see if it still holds up today. It's Top Gun. Welcome to Film Scene 21, my name's Simon and I'm here to bring you real 21st century reviews of film and great television in the best ways I believe those can be enjoyed through home media. Now, Tom Cruise has reprised his role 36 years later and brought us Top Gun Maverick to the cinema screens recently, and I thought this was an awesome time to not only talk about that but check out that original film from 1986. Top Gun. Now, I'll do things a little bit differently this time with a couple of shorter videos for each film. So we'll discuss the original film now, and then I'll follow that up shortly with my review on this limited edition 4K steelbook release, and then we'll talk about the new film Top Gun Maverick, which I just got back from seeing for the second time in IMAX no less, and then we'll finally follow that up with its own 4K release when it does come out. Now, I'd love for you to stay with me through this review, but if you do want to quickly jump ahead and check out what I think of this release, you can click here or down in the description below. Now, I'd be really interested to hear what you think of this new format, or whether you prefer me to keep them combined Blu-ray film together, or if you like this being separated out. Anyway, without further ado, I think it's time to talk about Top Gun. Let's go ballistic. So, the film Top Gun from 1986, directed by Tony Scott, brother of Ridley Scott. I recently rewatched it on this 4K release, which I absolutely loved. I have enjoyed the film so much for years, and I think it's a stark reminder of that bygone era, what I would call the last golden age of Hollywood, the 1980s. And I may dispel some of the misconceptions about it, so let's check it out. The film opens up on a US aircraft carrier out in the Indian Ocean when two hostile jets, MiG-28s, come into their airspace, so they send up a couple of F-14s to intercept. One of the pilots, played by Tom Cruise, is Pete Mitchell. His call sign is Maverick. He manages to missile lock onto one of these jets, causing it to retreat. However, the other jet has got its own missile locked onto Maverick's wingman, Cougar. Now, Maverick disobeys orders to land his plane because he's running low on fuel and heads back out to help Cougar, and after some spectacular aerobatics causes the other jet to bug out and go home. But the whole incident has left Cougar really shaken up, and when they do land back on the ship, he can't go anymore and he hands his wings in. Unbeknownst to Maverick and Goose, his Rio, played by Anthony Edwards, they have now moved into the top spot because Cougar's withdrawal means that they are now going to go off to hone their skills further and fight against the best pilots in the Navy at the Naval Fighter Weapons School, also known as Top Gun.
I still can't believe it. I gotta give you your dream shot. I'm gonna send you up against the best. You two characters are going to Top Gun.
Now, once Maverick gets to Top Gun, despite his overconfidence, he soon learns to realise this stiff competition he's up against, not least from Val Kilmer's Iceman.
Hey, Maverick! Yeah? You hear about ice? What's that? You want another one? Really? Yeah. I feel the need for speed. Ow!
And then to add further complications to things, a girl he was hitting on in the bar turns out to be civilian Top Gun instructor and his superior, Charlie, classily played by Kelly McGillis. When Charlie finds out that he's the pilot that carried out an allegedly impossible manoeuvre in that incident that helped out Cougar, she's intrigued to know more and to find out more about him, despite knowing he's a little dangerous and that a personal relationship is clearly off limits. It's not all plain sailing for Maverick and Goose at Top Gun, and they have to learn a lot from their mistakes, from superiors, from the other pilots, and from each other. The anticipation of this story builds on the very first scenes. We get those establishing shots of the aircraft carrier as the crew ready the jets for takeoff and the pilots taxi the planes into position, and all of this is shot with this beautiful cinematography all done around the golden hour of sunset, and it's underpinned by this great score by Harold Faltermeyer, which helps to build that tension nicely. Then, just as those jets blast off into the blue, areas are blasted with that Kenny Loggins Danger Zone track, and we get to see some amazing aerial photography. Then, Interestingly and bravely, we're introduced to the characters behind equipment, helmets, oxygen masks and the like, but despite that I felt a connection to them from the very first scene, especially Maverick and Goose, who go on to exhibit excellent chemistry throughout the story.
Talk to me, Goose.
Roger, I got him. Contact 20 left at 30 miles, 900 knots closure.
Cougar, you hear that?
Roger. Marlin, you got him?
Roger, I've got radar contact. I'll get a visual ID, Cougar, you hook 'em.
Roger, and I'll clean him and fry him.
Ostensibly coming across as being brash and cocky, Maverick still shows he really cares for a comrade in trouble, even going against protocol and the orders of his superiors to go and help out. But it's his naivety and inexperience that we will see him challenge most, and this is highlighted even more when we see him struggling to fit in and find his place at Top Gun.
You guys really are cowboys.
What's your problem, Kazansky?
You're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Nice, man. I am dangerous.
We also discover some familial backstory which seems to be affecting Maverick's mental state somewhat, and the two top instructors, Viper and Jester, played by Tom Skerritt and Michael Ironside, appear to know about this already, and there's a really great scene between Viper and Maverick where some much needed fatherly advice is handed out to the young pilot. Then we have the relationship between Maverick and Charlie, which is multi-layered and key to Maverick's emotional arc. Now, being slightly older and more mature, Charlie brings a grounded perspective in tandem with that raw passion that many seek in a relationship. It feels quite real because she's very critical of him during a pilot's briefing, which really miffs him off, but she determinedly pursues him to get her point across shortly before they express each other's true feelings.
I see some real genius in your flying, Maverick, but I can't say that in there. I was afraid that everyone in that tax trailer would see right through me, and I just don't want anyone to know that I've fallen for you.
It's a wonderfully emotive scene, and it sparks and leads into that passionate scene that follows, which is beautifully shot, and it's a tenderly intimate scene which was super steamy for a teenage me on my first viewing, and still touches the parts other scenes cannot reach even today. Now, it's really interesting to know that that love scene wasn't even part of the original script. It was only added later on after test audiences had commented after screenings that they really felt they needed that type of scene to show that intimate connection between the characters. So they actually went off to where Tom Cruise was filming his next movie, The Colour of Money, with Martin Scorsese down in Chicago, and they got those scenes filmed. Beautifully shot, wonderfully lit, and very well performed by the actors. And interestingly, they considered many actresses for the role of Charlie, including Brooke Shields, Deborah Winger, and even Carrie Fisher. But they really wanted somebody who was more of an unknown, and they'd seen and been very impressed by Kelly McGillis in the film Witness from the year before, with Peter Weir, who directed it, and Harrison Ford, who co-starred with her. And it was an amazing performance in that they thought she would be perfect for the role, and so cast her on the back of it. We also get to see Maverick's great friendship with Nick Bradshaw, or Goose, as he's known throughout the film. Played by Anthony Edwards, Goose and Maverick are so convincing as longtime buddies.
I told her how tough it is here. You know, my ass dragging like an old tired dog. I told her that you didn't even have a woman here.
Really?
You know what she said? She said, well, he probably doesn't have one, he's got 8.
We even get to meet Goose's family. They come to visit his little boy and his wife Carol, played cute as a button by Meg Ryan in one of her earlier roles. They hang out at the cafe bar with Charlie and Maverick and have a whale of a time playing songs around the piano, and it just shows you that sort of family unit that Maverick feels that he's part of, and this friendship is core to the story. There's also a serious side to it too, and we see Goose having to counsel Maverick on his risk taking, and Maverick really listens, which shows what deep respect he has for Goose, which is really great to see. And the chemistry they have together is what makes that latter tragedy have such an impact, and without that the film doesn't have that emotional pivot, and it really is core to the story. Now, unlike many modern blockbusters these days, Top Gun is not afraid to spend some time and sit with an emotion of a scene or a storyline. And heavy spoiler alert here, after the character Goose died, that's especially a time that the character of Maverick can't believe it, and when the news comes around, soak in what's happened and trying to deal with that. And we can see his mental anguish and how he interacts with the widow of Goose and how he can carry on with it.
I'd have flown anyway. Without you. He'd have hated it, but he would have done it.
And it's a real testament to the writing, the directing and the performances that it does have an impact on you, and it comes as a real shock when it does happen, just as it should, just as things like this happen in real life, and I commend the film for that. Now there are some great exchanges between the pilots too, and some may see this as just bravado, but it's not random cut downs just being thrown about. I mean, especially Iceman, he can see Maverick's flaws and he cleverly exposes them.
Maverick, it's not your flying. It's your attitude. The enemy's dangerous. But right now, you're worse than the enemy. You're dangerous and foolish. You may not like the guys flying with you. They may not like you. Well, whose side are you on?
And sometimes keeping it simple pays off.
Crash and burn, huh, Mav? Slider. You stink.
Now the tension between Maverick and Iceman is brilliantly played by Cruise and Kilmer, and we learn in the making of that this was elevated by them keeping their distance offset, and it certainly paid off.
Figured it out yet?
What's that?
Who's the best pilot?
No, I think I can figure that one out on my own.
I heard that about you. You like to work alone.
But Iceman even has his own character arc. It's subtle, but throughout the film he's got doubts about Maverick, he doesn't quite trust him.
Excuse me, sir. Yes. This is not personal, but with regard to Maverick, is he the best pilot?
I know
you've
it's on
got?
your mind, Kazansky. Just get on it.
By the end of the film, he does realise that people can change, and he ends up understanding that and changing throughout the film.
You are still dangerous. You can be my wingman anytime.
And the most profound character development we have is Maverick himself. I mean, he starts off very cocky, very overconfident, and we see this in his style of flying, which sometimes pays off, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a danger and a bit of a risk, which is something he does a lot, and that is questioned in the pilot's briefing.
The MiG has you in his gun sight. What were you thinking at this point?
You don't have time to think up there. If you think, you're dead.
Well, that's a big gamble with a $30 million plane, Lieutenant.
That is what happens to Maverick throughout the film. He develops, and he obviously has to deal with that terrible loss. He matures during these things, and it's great to see that. And the performance of Tom Cruise is just brilliant. You see the fun side of him during the start and the one-liners, but he really does have those moments of real contemplation. I think his performance is spot on. It's just brilliant for this character. The performances are nicely judged by all. Even some of the supporting characters get to leave their mark, like Slider, Wolfman, Sundown, and a great portrayal of Tom Stinger Jordan, the captain of the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier, who's played by James Tolkien. You may remember seeing him as Strickland in Back to the Future.
Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash. You've been busted. You lost your qualifications as section leader 3 times, with a history of high-speed passes over 5 air-controlled towers and 1 admiral's daughter.
And then we have those amazing scenes of the jets flying around, whether it be in training or during combat dogfights. These were brilliantly realised, bringing together these amazing long shots intercut with these scenes of the guys in the cockpits.
All right, talk to me, Goose. He's still back there. He's closing in on us. He's closing fast.
You can run, kid, but you can't hide.
I love a bit of trivia, so here's some for Top Gun. The opening scene where you see the jets taking off from the aircraft carrier, Tony Scott loves getting those shots backlit by the sun. However, the aircraft carrier had turned by the time he still needed to do a bit more filming, and he asked the captain if he could turn the ship around so that he could get shots with the sun in the background. And he said, well, yeah, I could. That cost you $25,000 though, as much it cost to turn the ship around. Tony Scott then quickly wrote out a check for $25,000 and handed it over to him so he could get those shots completed. And then according to the director, apparently the check bounced. That classic scene where Maverick buzzes the tower at the naval base and the guy spills his coffee all over himself. That thing never happens in real life. No one's ever done it before, and I don't think anyone's ever done it since. It's just not not protocol to do that, but obviously they wanted to do it for the film, so all the Navy pilots were like desperate to get the opportunity to do this, and so they all pulled straws to see who would be the lucky person. It fell to Lieutenant Commander Lloyd Bozo Abel, Bozo being his call sign, and he flew so low that there was a Michael Ironside who plays Jester in the film. He was up in one of the hangars and he could see, as he flew so low, he could see down into the cockpit, and Michael Ironside said it's one of the most spectacular sights he's ever seen. There's that signature volleyball scene in the film where Maverick and Goose go up against Slider and Iceman, which has become a cultural phenomenon over the years. But initially it was only a paragraph in the script, but then Tony Scott decided to spend an entire day filming it. It was fully scripted, they kept score and everything. He shot it like a commercial, and apparently the studio heads were really angry about the amount of time he'd spent on it, even threatening to fire him. And then it goes on to become one of the most famous scenes in the movie, so there you go. Now, that amazing soundtrack that accompanies the film Top Gun, most of the songs were written by Giorgio Moroder, did the music, and his lyricist Tom Whitlock, who was previously his car mechanic. So he's now a songwriter, and they got together a great combination to create some of those classic and iconic tracks for the film, along with the score written by Harold Faltermeyer. Now, originally the soundtrack was released with just the songs that were written for the film, and it was only later re-released as an expanded edition to include songs that were incidental songs like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding and Jerry Lee Lewis's Great Balls of Fire. That was also a successful soundtrack as well. It was just huge across the world and probably one of the most iconic soundtracks to this day. At the end of the movie, you'll see a dedication to Art Scholl, who was one of the stunt pilots on the film, who also worked on Iron Eagle, which came out the same year. Fortunately, he lost his life during the filming of this. The plane he was in lost control, and it even went into a flat spin and went out to sea. He was never recovered, neither was the plane, so they dedicated the film to him in his memory. Now, I'd like to dispel some of those misconceptions about Top Gun, because for me it's a drama. It's got that romance front and centre, and it's nicely balanced out with themes of family, dealing with ghosts of the past, the pursuit of excellence, and then it's topped off with those phenomenal aviation aerobatics. And oh my gosh, forgive them for making it so cool, but it is rounded out with depth and peril, some human connection, and some fantastic performances. As producer Don Simpson said, this is a film about heart, guts, soul and honour. And it's rarity these days to find a film that features action, romance, brotherhood, music, tragedy, dedication to a cause, and just that right amount of humour to keep you invested in the characters so that it never outstays its welcome. There are a great many detractors that will simplify Top Gun as just a music video or Navy recruitment propaganda, but if you can block all that out and just appreciate it for what it really is, I think you'll find, like I have, a lot of things to enjoy. Now, what about a score out of 10? I appreciate Top Gun for its technical achievements, iconic performances, memorable lines, a fantastic soundtrack, and a really great story that gets me in the feels. And for that, I give this film 8 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think down in the comment section below. There it is. I really enjoyed talking to you today about Top Gun. If you enjoyed the review, do hit the thumbs up button and share it around with anyone you know. That way more people get to see it, which I'd really appreciate. If you do want to see any more videos going forward, then hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out when it goes live, including what I thought of the sequel Top Gun Maverick. And if you want to check out any other videos I've done, I've got some reviews, unboxings, that type of thing, then you can hit my channel link and check those out as well. I do appreciate you joining me and staying with me to the end as well. It just really encouraged me to make more content for you all. So thanks once again for joining me on Film Scene 21. As usual, my name's Simon. Bye bye for now, take care, and I'll see you next time.